Sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll be starting within a minute.
No. We are waiting for a few more to join.
Okay.
And
Sure.
then Diksha will, from my team, will welcome. And then I'll also introduce you. And then we can start. I think I see Dr. Warrior also here. Dr. Warrior, you're on mute though. Yeah, now Dr. Warrior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
So we'll just wait for a few more minutes as people are joining in.
Yeah. Dr. Venugopal is ready, no?
Yes, he's there and he's ready.
Mutely. Hello?
Yes, sir. Doc.
Yeah, Warrior sir. How are you?
Warrior, sir.
Yes, sir.
Warrior? Warrior, can you hear me?
Yeah. Nilesh, you got the response from Dr. Gautam?
No, not yet. Not directly. I'll follow
Yeah.
up. I'll follow up with him.
Yeah, you just, if
Yeah.
something has to be done, you tell me. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We still have 2 weeks, so I didn't want to.
Yeah, no problem. Yes, agreed. Yes,
So,
in fact, he has agreed.
Okay. Diksha, we can start because I'll be giving a little bit introduction about the chapter also, no? So that.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's program hosted by Chamber for Advancement of Small and Medium Businesses. I would request everyone to mute yourself, and if you have any question, put it in the chat box. We will have a Q&A session at the end. Now, I would like to call upon President Mr. Nilesh Lele sir to give a brief overview of this session and also introduce the speaker. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. A warm welcome to everybody, especially our guest speaker today, Dr. Venugopal. Also, warm welcome to Dr. Warrior, who's also a retired scientist from BRC. I see a few other friends and regulars in our sessions. So before I introduce our today's speaker, I would also like to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the chamber that was recently formed. In fact, it was launched on March 1st, last Monday. So we are hardly 8 days old. And want to give a little bit background about why it was formed and what are the activities we plan to do. So we are primarily based out of Mumbai with an office in BKC, Bandra Kurla complex. We are also online at casmb.org.in, the short form for our Chamber for Advancement of Small and Medium Businesses. We are also very active on all the various social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram. We have our own YouTube channel. So if you have missed any of our sessions from last week, including our launch function, as well as a few others, 3 other sessions that we did last week. So 4 in all, last week, as well as yesterday's session. You can always watch it on the YouTube channel. So why was this chamber formed, or what is the mission and vision, is a question that many people ask me. So we want to work very closely with all the stakeholders in order to advance, or in order to advancement of micro and small medium businesses. We also have a vision to make all the MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises, more resilient. And they're already the backbone, but we want them to be a much stronger backbone of our Indian economy. The chamber was formed primarily because we all know that MSME contributes almost 30% to the Indian GDP. In the export segment also, almost 48% is coming from MSME, and it also employs 11 crore people. In fact, in December, on 20th, our Honorable Minister for MSME, Shri Nitinji Gadkari, mentioned, and he has a dream that the contribution should go up from 30% to 40%, as well as the export contribution should go up from 48 to 60%. The MSME segment is also expected to add around 5 crore jobs in next 5 years. So with this vision, and with understanding the importance of MSME to our economy at the peak of pandemic, so many of us, especially in the food industry, came together and have formed this chamber in order to empower the MSME entrepreneur to achieve the next level success. We want to work extensively for their advancement. We want to represent the MSME in various forums. I myself am a manufacturer and I'm an MSME. We also want to empower farmers to think like entrepreneurs. In fact, farmer is been the first entrepreneur that has ever been on this earth. So what's an entrepreneur? Someone who makes something for himself, and then he makes something in excess so that he can barter or sell in exchange for other services of goods. So farmer is in fact the first entrepreneur that came on the earth. Unfortunately, over last few centuries, they have forgotten to operate or like think like an entrepreneur. We want them to imbibe that kind of a feeling all over again. We are also trying to bring the convergence of academic research, different technologies available, government schemes and policies that will benefit the SME. So we want to be a bridge and an amalgamation or the convergence of all the different aspects that an MSME or the entrepreneur or the founder who's trying to wear all these different hats, we are trying to make his life easy through this chamber. We'll also be helping them build capacities through training and development, take part in study tours, take our members to various exhibitions, and to bring them strategic tie-ups, and obviously enhance their knowledge. We have been fortunate to have a very strong advisory board, which includes Professor Smita Lele, from Emeritus Professor from ICT Mumbai, Dr. Prabodh Halde, Dr. Prakash Kondekar. We also have a very strong management team, which is spread across 3 states already in India. We have Mr. Umesh Kamble, who's also the Secretary General and a big probably the backbone of our organization. Prashant Naigawkar comes with a vast experience in the field of finance. Ajit Kasar comes with a vast experience in the field of sales and marketing. Mr. Sachin Kumboje, who's based out of Kolhapur and will look after our activities in Western Maharashtra, as well as our incubation cell. Mr. Anup Kulkarni, who's based out of Marathwada, will also has a background in entrepreneurship, bringing together entrepreneurs. Mr. Prashant Pradhan has sales marketing expertise. Ms. Arpita is based out of Gujarat, so she'll be looking after our activities in Gujarat. And Mr. Samir, who's based in Goa. So already we have spread in 3 Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Goa, and slowly and steadily plan to have our footprints across India and across various industries. In the month of March, we decided that let us run certain initiatives, certain webinars, because we are still probably in a lockdown kind of a mode. So every Mondays, we are bringing entrepreneurs to this platform who can actually, just one second. Yeah, sorry. So we are trying to bring entrepreneurs who can actually, motivate our startups and our students and whoever are joining these programs. So we have had 2 sessions so far. On first Monday, we had Girish Chitale of Chitale Dairy. Yesterday, we had 2 fantastic women entrepreneurs, including Dr. Deepa Bajekar and Dr. Pragati Gokhale from Nagpur. And we plan to continue this through the next 3 Mondays of March. Today is the technology transfer. Last week we had Professor Smita Lele from ICT talk about her technologies and ICT technologies. Today we have Dr. Venugopal talk about technologies from the seafood department of BRC. Next Tuesday we'll have NIFTEM present their 34 technologies that are available for transfer, and we are yet to hear, but we are very hopeful that the week following we'll have BRC displaying some of the other technologies, and on the 5th Tuesday IFPT Tanjavur displaying their technologies. We also have a weekly knowledge forum, and tomorrow we have a representative from Malaysian Palm Oil who will be here with us tomorrow as well as next Wednesday, talking about food as well as non-food applications of palm oil. And on the 4th Wednesday, which will be March 24th, we have Padma Bhushan Dr. Professor JB Joshi, who will talk to us about various ideas and how bottom of the pyramid entrepreneurs can actually make money. On the finance facilitation, we had a fantastic session last Thursday where we had a chartered accountant, Maheshwar Maratheji, who spoke about a lot of initiatives and schemes that Government of India and Government of Maharashtra has launched in recent times. Again, that is available on YouTube. Anyone who may have missed it, I would definitely ask them to watch it. This Thursday, we have ICICI Bank on this platform, who themselves have a startup policy, and they are actually doing equity investment in startups up to 10% equity. And their representative will talk about their schemes and various initiatives that ICICI Bank is doing. And the next 2 Thursdays also, please watch out for this space for a few interesting topics. We also are in talks with a couple of colleges for co-managing incubation center, one in Navi Mumbai and one in Kolhapur, and plan to have a buyer seller meet probably on the 2nd or the 3rd Saturday of March. So just keep watching for this space to know more about different initiatives. So this is again, this is available on our website, the past event as well as upcoming events, and I've already mentioned about him. There are many benefits, including free as well as subsidized fees for various events that chamber does, or like our support, we support other events. Like today's event is also being supported by AFST Mumbai as well as NetProFan and Entra-O2. So similarly, their events, we will our members can get subsidized registration fees. We are also planning to bring out a newsletter. You can use the chamber office if you want to do a team meetings or your client meetings in Mumbai. So there are multiple benefits. Just sky is the limit, and this is just the beginning. We have also tried to keep the fees at a minimum so that more and more people can actually benefit. Right from the micro sector, where turnover is up to 5 crore, the membership fee is 2,500, which is probably where most of our members would be, and gradually it will keep going up. We also want to bring in students and farmers because, like I said, students today may become entrepreneurs tomorrow. So we want to catch them early, and they can also benefit a lot from being a member of our chamber. So with this, these are my coordinates, my contact information. So if anybody has any question or want to reach out to the chamber or to me, feel free to reach out to us. So with this, without taking much further time, I would now like to introduce our today's guest speaker. First and foremost, Dr. Venugopal sir, thank you very much for accepting our request. And I'm very honored and glad to introduce him to our attendees today. So Dr. Venugopal received his MSc in chemistry from University of Kerala and PhD in biochemistry from the University of Bombay. He began his career at the Central Institute of Fisheries Technology, Kochi in India, and later moved to Bhabha Atomic Research Center, that's BARC, in Mumbai, where he was the head of the seafood technology section of the Food Technology Division. He has been a postdoctoral research fellow at the National Institutes of Health, Bethesda, Maryland, US, and a visiting scientist at the Memorial University of Newfoundland, St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. His main interests were value addition of fishery products, radiation processing of seafood and marine proteins. He has, to his credit, 3 independently authored books on seafood and other marine products, all published by Tyler and Francis Group, CRC Press, Florida, USA. These are seafood processing, adding value through quick freezing, retortable packaging, and cook chilling in 2006, marine products for healthcare in 2008, and marine polysaccharides, food applications in 2010. Besides, he has published over 120 articles on seafood science and technology, including seafood irradiation, which included research papers, review articles, and book chapters. He is a fellow of the National Academy of Agriculture Sciences, New Delhi, India. He continues to publish review articles on different aspects of seafood processing, besides serving as a reviewer for several journals in the field. With this, I would like to invite Dr. Venugopal sir to please take over. And if you have your PPT, I have made you the co-host. You can share your screen and you're visible and we can hear you as well. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lele. Thank you, Dr. Lele, for inviting me to give a talk at this today in the Advancement Chamber for Advancement of Small and Medium Businesses. I'm very grateful to I'm very glad to accept the invitation, and I would like to present my recent work in the field. In this context, I will also would like to share my memories with Dr. D.R. Bangirwar and Dr. S.B. Varia, with whom I had very good collaboration during my service at BARC. And I'm also glad to, I also had enjoyed collaboration with some of the staff members of Kerala University of Fisheries and Ocean Studies, particularly Dr. Gopakumar, Dr. K. Gopakumar, and also Dr. Abhilash Shashidharan. In today's talk, I'll be concentrating on recent biotechnological processes for value addition of seafood processing discards. So, the title of today's talk will be slightly changed, as you can see. It is Seafood Processing Waste, Bioprocessing for Cleaner Environment, Bioeconomy, and Sustainable Production. So let us go to that topic. The demand for food, water, and energy is projected to increase rapidly in the coming decades. Against this scenario, the salient problems of modern food production systems are enormous use of fresh water, about 60% of available fresh water, significant production of food and agro waste and losses, and industry associated environmental hazards. These are the three main problems associated with our food industry. We have to handle these problems for sustainable production of food for the coming decades. Sustainable food production demands reduction of waste, recovery and reuse of water, and minimizing environmental pollution for a circular bioeconomy. In this talk, I will briefly discuss wastage of food in general, followed by discussion on recent biotechnological process for valorization of seafood processing discards. Global food losses. Probably you may be aware that about 1/3 of current global food production, amounting to 1.3 billion tons, is lost or wasted. The United Nations UNEP Food Waste Index Report 2021, just published last week only, the UNEP Food Waste Index Report 2021 found that in the year 2019, 17% of food available at consumer levels was wasted when some 690 million people were remaining hungry. This is UNEP Food Waste Index Report 2021. So what are the impacts of food wastage? There can be several impacts of food wastage. Food wastage has a substantial environmental, social, and economic impacts. Food losses are responsible for pollution and emission of 8 to 10% of total greenhouse gases, which include methane, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, etc. Food wastage means significant losses to the consumers in terms of nutrition. For example, protein, lipids, vitamins, and minerals are getting lost and which are not reaching the consumer. Food wastage and losses cost about $940 billion per year in the economic, that is economic losses. About $940 billion are lost. So these are the main impacts, very serious impacts of food wastage. So there is a need for waste utilization. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 SDGs which were established, which were developed in 2015. These goals call for actions to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by the year 2030. Now we have got only 9 years to go to reach our target. The UNDP SDG target 12.3 aims at halving per capita global food waste at the retail and consumer levels and reducing food losses along production and supply chain. So the paradigm is reduce, reuse, and recycle for a circular bioeconomy. So this paradigm has been recognized to minimize food waste. Several industries are therefore taking actions to reduce, reuse, and recycle food waste for a greener planet. There was an interesting article just last week, February 26, it was appeared in Times of India. I think many of you must have seen that. So after the initial just mentioning of the food losses and their impacts in general, I'm going to discuss about seafood processing discards and their influence, how to use it, how to make use of it for a bioeconomy. These are my topics of today's discussion. So seafood waste have been taken care of by industry by very traditional, unscientific ways, like throwing in the land, wasteland, or putting in the effluent, discharging in the water. But these are all very dangerous for the dangerous way of environmental pollution as well as loss of nutrients. So we should go for a novel technology which are environmentally safe as well as valuable. So the recent developments in biotechnology have got a lot of scope for application of seafood discard valorization. So before going to that, I will just briefly mention what are the current scenario with respect to seafood industry. The current global seafood production is about 171 million tons, including 80 million tons coming through aquaculture. According to the FAO, seafood provides global per capita fish consumption of 20 kilo and 20%, it contributes 20% of total animal proteins consumed by the consumer. A sustainable seafood production can improve food security and the nutritional status of world population. This has been mentioned in a recent article, in an interesting review by Merrill Williams in 2015. So wastage in seafood production. The industry processes about 78% of total harvest into diverse products for human consumption. Commercial processing generates 40 to 60% of raw material as waste, consisting of skins, heads, frames, viscera, shells, and others. Secondly, water is an imperative component of the seafood industry for both farming as well as processing. Most water used in these operations is discarded as effluents. These effluents are rich in various nutrients. So this is another way of another reason for loss of nutrients. It has been estimated that 8% of global seafood production is not available as food. The seafood that is lost can fill 30% of the gap between current consumption and the recommended levels of nutrients recommended by regulatory agencies. Annual seafood discards in the US cause loss of 208 billion milligram of proteins and 1.8 trillion milligram of N3 polyunsaturated fatty acids, PFA. This is appeared in it's reported in an article published in 2015. Environmental impacts of seafood discards and effluents. Fish heads, backbones, tail, trimmings, and shell waste, being highly sensitive to putrefaction, release methane, amines, diamines, ammonia, and hydrogen sulfide to the environment. Traditional disposal by landfill, incineration, and release of effluents in coastal waters have serious adverse impacts. So, what are the characteristics of the seafood processing discards? The table is given. This is the data is obtained from analysis of 60 different types of discards. This is an average value. The discards contain, solid discards contain crude protein as high as 58%, 58 to 60%. It also contains 20% fat and about 22% ash, containing a lot of important minerals. If you think about if you consider the effluent, they are rich in suspended solids which contain proteins and all these nutrients, proteins, fat, and ash, and also polysaccharides to some extent, coming from certain shellfish. Ammoniacal nitrogen, it has got a very high value of BOD and COD. So effluents are as detrimental to the environment as the solid discards. What are the major classes of compounds in seafood discards? See, this is seafood discards, centered, and there are 4 different types of compounds are coming out of the seafood discards. They are nitrogenous compounds, proteins, amino acids, etc., lipids and carotenoids, polysaccharides, and then mineral-related compounds. We'll come to details in the coming session. So this is a graphic abstract of today's presentation. The seafood is coming either from wild catch or farming. Their seafood goes for processing. Some seafood also are caught as bycatch, which don't find much value. So they are discarded as such. So that is a very big loss of nutrients. Then processing causes solid discards and effluents. Treatment of these solid discards and effluents by variety of methods, biotechnological process, lead to several byproducts. They contain proteins, peptides, lipids, nitrogenous. I will come to that later in detail also. Apart from that, treatment of effluent can help water conservation and environmental protection. The treated effluent is safe for use for watering the plants or cooling towers and so many applications in the seafood industry itself. So we are trying to conserve the effluent for a variety of interesting applications. What are the major seafood derived industrial and healthcare components? I have classified into two, finfish and shellfish. There are different compounds are there. Many things are common for both. Nitrogenous compounds, proteins, collagen, gelatin, protein hydrolysate, bioactive peptides, enzymes. And what are the lipid-based compounds? P for rich oil, squalene, squalamine, mineral-based, biological calcium, phosphopeptides, hydroxyapatite from tuna bone, and so many other mineral-based compounds. Polysaccharide-based, glycosaminoglycan, chondroitin sulfate, dermatin sulfate, hyaluronic acid, HAL, HAL. Similar similar compounds are also released from shellfish waste. So what are the benefits of valorization of seafood discards? Reduce their adverse environmental impacts, help to recover various useful products, namely food additives, health, nutraceuticals, etc., cosmeceuticals, packaging, and other fields, agro-industry products, and thirdly, biofuel. Different types of biofuel can be generated from the waste. So this, in another way, I have divided these products into three categories. Food ingredients. There are three classes of compounds which we can develop from the seafood discards. Food ingredients, which include proteins, peptides, lipids, flavours, carotenoids. SCP, single cell protein. I will come to that later. Fertilizer, animal feed, fish feed. Then bioenergy, biomethane, biohydrogen, and biodiesel. So now I am coming to the bioextraction process. These are all techniques depending upon biotechnology. I am not dealing anything about the old technologies because they are not very much useful in today's time. So in these biotechnological applications, there are two major processes. One is the bioconversion process. In this bioconversion process, we take the seafood discards and then apply to there are different bioconversion processes. I will come to that later. Then in principle, what happens is that these components, whether proteins, lipids, or other polysaccharides, or any other components, are remaining in the matrix, in the muscle matrix or meat matrix. So we apply certain bioconversion process. So that releases the components from the matrix. But they are released, we apply certain extraction processes. These extraction processes are very novel techniques which are environmentally safe and clean. It doesn't, and mostly very cost effective. So applying these techniques, we get the ingredients. So we'll go detail to that. What are the important bioconversion processes for separation of compounds from a matrix of food waste? Enzymatic process. We use different types of enzymes: proteases, lipase, chitinases, etc. Then microbiological process, fermentation. Microbiological process mainly depend upon fermentation, either by lactic acid bacteria, non-lactic acid bacteria, or microalgae. Other processes, we can have several biophysical processes, etc. For example, ISP, isoelectric precipitation of proteins, flocculation of proteins, gelation of proteins. These are all very mild processes. Employing which we can separate the proteins from the matrix. So I am coming to the enzyme. These are very, I should mention that these are very, I am just giving the summary only. We can give full details. I can give full details if anybody is interested, but then in this talk, I cannot give a full, I cannot go in full details of these applications. Seafood discards. So there are different types of discards: fish head, shrimp waste, shrimp shell, crude protein, chitin, shrimp waste, black tiger, shrimp shells. So many types of discards. They are all different, treated by different enzymes: collagenase, protease. So many enzymes, microbial proteases or plant proteases. Then we get different types of different ingredients depending upon the raw material and the enzyme used. This include collagen, collagen peptides, fish gelatin, fish protein hydrolysate, puffer-rich oil, oligosaccharides, protein, so many different types of products. Carotenoprotease, astaxanthin, oligophosphatide, and so many types of products can be recovered from the waste. Now we are coming to the fermentation process. You know, fermentation has been employed in seafood for quite a long time, for several decades. But that was a traditional type of fermentation, where using lactic acid bacteria, we developed certain products. And that fermentation technology has also been applied to other food products. So that traditional fermentation has been going on for several decades. But then recently, fermentation technology has attracted very interesting applications. Especially, there are now few companies coming up with recent developments with using applying fermentation for novel products development. For example, see at the end, the Good Food Institute, in a latest article, it's a booklet on fermentation, state of the industry report. They have given the various uses of fermentation for product development. These include biomass fermentation and precision fermentation, apart from the traditional fermentation. In this biomass fermentation, we use different types of algae, and then it ferments, and then algae grows, and making use of the nutrients present in the food, and then we get the fermented product, which is mainly biomass of algae. Then in the precision fermentation, we use tailor-made microorganisms. In these organisms, we can develop organism having specific enzyme characteristics, and then allow it to grow in the food system. Then we get specific products. If anybody is interested more in detail, please go through this GFI report. Some of the fermented products from seafoods. There are different seafood discards, different types of microorganisms used, products. There are complete information have been summarized that is available with me. So, fermentation for waste management. In a recent report, Japanese scientists have found that they have developed a process that converts food waste into soil amendment. It diverges from traditional composting methods in several respects. The most important are the input matter is fermented by specialist bacteria, and the material is not decomposed. The fermented matter is fed directly to field or garden soil. The basics of Bogashi composting is available. Other bioextraction processes. Isoelectric solubilization precipitation for proteins. We have got a recent review article on this. Flocculation for protein recovery from effluents. Gelation of proteins for recovery of proteins from seafood discards in general. I am restricted to give a limit to my talk very briefly to these aspects because of time constraints. Recovery of proteins from seafood discards by isoelectric solubilization precipitation. This is seafood processing discards. What we are doing is that we homogenize the material, mincing homogenization, then reduce the pH to 2.5 to 3.5. Then most of the proteins go in a solution. Then you centrifuge it to remove the insoluble portions like bones, etc., skin, etc. Then you raise the pH to isoelectric pH of the proteins, pH 5.26. That results in the precipitation of all the proteins. Centrifugation of the precipitate, we can recover the proteins by centrifugation or membrane filtration techniques. I should mention that in recent times, different novel membrane filtration techniques have been developed, even for water purification at IIT Chennai. So there is a good scope for application of these technologies for isolation of ingredients. We'll discuss further. Flocculation, use of food-grade polysaccharides such as carrageenan, alginate, and carboxymethyl cellulose flocculate proteins present in suspended or dissolved state in seafood process effluents. The flocculated proteins are concentrated by filtration, sedimentation, centrifugation, or membrane process. So the green process, I mentioned after the bioconversion, whatever the release material, we can recover by green process, extraction processes. These green processes include pressurized liquid extraction, enzyme-mediated extraction, supercritical carbon dioxide extraction, microwave-assisted extraction, ultrasound assisted extraction, membrane extraction. I just forgot to include that. There are detailed information available on these novel technologies. So these are the, so what I mentioned till so far is that we can release the compounds from the food matrix by a different bioconversion process, and then by a different green extraction process, we can isolate these components. So now I'm coming to biorefinery approach for commercial treatment, commercial extraction process. What is biorefinery? You know what is known as a refinery. A refinery generally means conversion of raw materials into high-value products. The classic example is a petroleum refinery. In the case of biological molecules or biotechnology, biorefinery is defined as sustainable processing of biomass into spectrum of bio-based products, food, feed, chemicals, and materials, and also bioenergy. This is a definition given by International Energy Agency. Advantages of biorefinery. Biorefinery helps valorization of bio-waste through a cascade of biotechnological process to produce products and also bioenergy. So it is a cascade of different processes. We mentioned different processes, enzymatic, fermentation process. So we can combine all these to make a biorefinery to valorize the discards. Coupling of bioconversion process give multiple products. This results in leading to zero waste, almost complete utilization of the waste. The advantages are comparative. The biorefinery have also got advantages like lower cost and better utilization of the waste. So now we will discuss biorefinery approach for valorization of seafood discards. The approach envisages conversion of fish waste into value-added products such as animal feed, organic fertilizer, nutraceuticals, biofuels, and others. The process depends on the raw material. For example, when we are considering the shell from the shellfish, the techniques the processes are slightly different compared to other we employ for muscle meat waste or muscle waste. So in the shell refinery, crustacean waste is subjected to sequential treatments to recover chitin, proteins, lipids, carotenoids, and calcium carbonate and chitin monomers in a single process, single biorefinery. This is the biorefinery for shell utilization, just recently published. So there are different processes in that. See, the crustacean shell waste initially subjected to fermentation by lactic acid bacteria and also by proteolytic bacteria under optimum pH and temperature conditions. Then the proteins are liquefied and then chitin is not affected. So chitin is separated. The chitin is washed, and from the chitin we can get calcium lactate, because we are using lactic acid earlier in the fermentation process. So we get calcium lactate, and then the the chitin is deacetylated by fungal chitin deacetylase. So what happens? Chitin is an acetyl D-glucosamine polymer. So deacetylation removes a glycosyl moiety, and then we get chitosan. Coming to the right hand side, we get a liquid fraction of proteins and pigments. Pigments mainly astaxanthin. And then it is decolonized, lyophilized, then we get protein hydrolysate. We can also get the pigments by lyophilization or other techniques, because the pigment will not be soluble, so it can be separated easily, or by membrane filtration. I forgot to mention that. So we are getting multiple products from seafood discards by the biorefinery approach. See the left side, the different biorefinery approaches which have been studied in the recent years, last 3-4 years. So I am not going to read all these. Sequential treatment of crustacean shells, demineralization. I am not going to, because the time restraints, I cannot go in much details. But then for each process, I got a reference, and where complete details are given. And all these have been summarized in my recent review article, which will be appearing by next month or so. It is under publication. We get chitin monomers. I hope you will excuse me because I am not going to read that. Now, there is a major aspect of the biorefinery is algal biorefinery. This is one step again further to the conventional biorefinery or the recent developments in biorefinery. The algal biorefinery, what we are doing is that we are growing algae, microalgae, in that seafood waste. Microalgal biorefinery is a promising platform for converting seafood discards into biomass. I mentioned the GFI work. I mentioned the GFI, Good Food Institute, where they mentioned that biomass conversion is a recent application of the fermentation technology. So in this process, we allow the microalgae to grow in the seafood waste, discards, or even effluents. Microalgae, many of you must be knowing that there are plenty. They can be marine or the freshwater type. And they grow very rapidly. They can be heterogeneous growing type or the photosynthetic organisms. They absorb the light from the environment. They absorb sunlight and nutrients from the water and grow quite rapidly. In the growth characteristics, microalgae are much faster compared to terrestrial organisms in growth. Microalgae such as chlorella, spirulina, Dunaliella, diatoms, or cyanobacteria can be cultivated in open ponds or in closed photobioreactors or heterotropically in fermenters using seafood waste as a nutrient medium. So what happens when the microalgae are cultivated in this medium? They grow rapidly, and their photosynthetic nature favor rapid conversion of bio-waste into algal biomass. This is called single cell protein or SCP. SCP is rich in oil, proteins, carbohydrates, pigments, antioxidants, long chain, PFA, and all this can be isolated from the SCP by suitable green techniques. One of the important products which we can develop, which we can isolate from the SCP is oil. Some microalgae can grow in these under nitrogen limiting conditions to produce oil as high as 40 to 50%. So 40 to 50% of the SCP contains is oil. That oil can be isolated from the SCP. Alternately, there are certain oil-producing organisms, oleaginous microorganisms they're called, in bio-based medium useful for oil production. The oil can be transformed into biofuel such as biogas and biodiesel, the latter characterized by lower emission of carbon dioxide. These biofuel are much better in their emission characteristics compared to conventional fuel. Recently, there have been some work, much work has been conducted in converting fish oil into biofuel. The SCP of microalgae cultivated in bio-based medium is rich in oil which can be converted to biofuel. Anaerobic digestion seafood processing based water by chlorella has been shown to produce biogas. So in summary, bioconversion of microalgal biomass. This looks like a necklace. See, that shows that various products can be isolated from the microalgae. See, seafood, that medium, we are supplying seafood discards nutrients, sunlight and air. Then the microalgae grows very fast, and then the SCP is isolated, and then it is broken into the cells are broken, and then different compounds are required, like proteins, biodiesel, carotenoids, PFA, vitamins, antioxidant, biochar. So all these compounds, still there can be more products that can be isolated from microalgal biomass. So the microalgal biorefinery is a suitable platform for valorization of seafood processing discards as well as effluents. So I just mentioned in the heading about the bioeconomic aspects, bioeconomy. Recent studies on economic aspects of bioprocessing. You can see on the right side, there have been recently very interesting articles on bioeconomic aspects of seafood waste treatment. For example, fermentation of fish media, it can is a fourfold reduction in cost in comparison with the synthetic media. So that is economic benefits of using fermentation. Recovery of nutritive proteins from unexplored sources. There's a very good scope for isolation of proteins from unexplored sources like seafood discards. This has been published in this article by HCN. Energy production from tuna waste by this is a solid example of the economic prospects of waste treatment. See, this is a Eurofish as a company under the European Union. It produces, it treats 200 tons of tuna daily, and it generates 1,300 metric cube of methane. Whatever the tuna waste is generated is converted to methane directly. This reduced wastewater treatment costs 50% energy, savings of 50% energy, and there will be the 50% cost of energy as well as savings 30 to 40% energy consumption, savings of energy use for the company. So the company is saving 30 to 40% energy costs. This process has been going on for the last 5 years. This is by Fluence 2019. There's a very good article on that. You can get the details from that on this. Then multiple ingredients, proteins, oil, biofuels from fish. This is another study on the economic aspects of bioprocessing. For example, the waste, 817 tons of waste generated 160 tons of proteins, 26.6 tons of oil, and 160 tons of liquid biofuel. The biofuel meant the total electricity needs of the plant. So the biofuel converted can be used as an energy source for the running of the plant. This has been this come recently, few years, 2-3 years back. So coming to the conclusion, bioprocessing is eco-friendly and cost-effective to recover compounds and alleviate problems of seafood discards. Biorefinery approach is economically more viable for the recovery of multiple compounds. Algal biorefinery has potential for valorization of seafood discards through algal biomass. Success in this process can minimize waste and meet the goals of sustainable seafood processing towards a circular bioeconomy. So I should mention that this again and again that very briefly I mentioned all the prospects of application of biotechnology in seafood discard and seafood effluent valorization. The recent, you can get more details in my recent publications on these. Valorization of seafood processing discards, bioconversion and biorefinery approaches. This is in press. This coming in a publication, revalorization of food losses and food co-products. And then another protein seafood industry effluents, environmental hazards, treatment and resource recovery. Journal of Environmental and Chemical Engineering. Last year it was published. And then another article on proteins and co-products from seafood processing discards, their recovery, functional properties and applications, waste and biomass valorization. Then I got also a book chapter, Nutrients, Nutraceuticals from Seafood, published in 2018 in Bioactive Molecules in Foods, reference series in phytochemistry. And then another, the last one which I mentioned is on shellfish, nutritive value, health benefits, and consumer safety. It was published in comprehensive reviews in food science and food safety. It is one of the top cited articles. Within 3 years, it has got 65 citations already. I should, I think I just mentioned the Indian scenario. It is appropriate if I mention a few lines on the Indian scenario of waste utilization of food waste. India generates 60 million tons of waste annually. About 50 grams of food is wasted per person. It is approximate calculation. Attempts are being made to address the problems. Recently, a few startups in the field of biofuel production have come up. A company, Takachar, buys rice husk, straw, and coconut shells from farmers in Delhi. You must have read in the paper that during harvest time, some of the farmers burn these straw and coconut rice husk, and it creates a lot of environmental problems in Delhi area. So a company thought, why can't they make fuel from this? They purchase this. They purchase rice husk, straws, and other agro waste. The aim is to prevent release of 700 million tons of greenhouse gases emissions by the year 2030. The charcoal is used for water purification and other purposes. So they are making charcoal from this agro waste. There is another company, industry such as Nepra, with a with the motto of let us recycle, are committed to dry waste management. There can be more attempts in the Indian scenario, but I am restricting my talk to this only. Thank you very much for your nice and kind listening. I hope you got some briefing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The floor is open for Q&A.
Sir, I know we had restricted time, but if anybody wants to reach out to you, should I share your email address on the group, in the chat box?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will be happy to send the reprints or whatever.
They can directly reach out to you.
Yeah,
I know
yes.
there's a lot of technical aspects. Maybe they can write to you. So your email, I've sent it in the chat box.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So I think it was an excellent talk. Anybody has any questions? I think the Good Food Institute that you mentioned, they are been working a lot in the non-meat protein or vegetarian protein. So I think it's a fantastic idea that they're actually converting seafood protein or seafood waste into algal or vegetarian protein. So I guess that's the idea behind their technology, right? Sir, you're on
Yes,
mute.
sir.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yeah, they have recently started making cultivated seafood. That means they make they use the nutrients to make seafood. So it's not a farmed or wild catch. Cultivated seafood. They take the stem cells from the live fish and allow to grow in these nutrients and make seafood. So they said they have got a lot of prospects. 4 companies have started making this. They say.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? You can unmute yourself and also ask the question. Or put it in the chat box. So I've heard about collagen. So if you can throw some light on fish collagen, because recently I saw my wife buy a box of vegetarian collagen from Amazon, and was pretty expensive.
Oh, yeah. Actually, collagen, there is very good scope for isolation of collagen from bone waste. No? When we take, when we fillets, we get after removing the feet, the bone portion is there. That can be treated with collagenase to get either whole collagen or collagen peptides. This collagen peptides have got a lot of medicinal value. Not only that, this collagen is also converted to gelatin. That fish gelatin or seafood gelatin are much superior to animal gelatin. They got a very good, interesting flashpoints and then other characteristics, make them as a functional ingredient.
Okay. Mr. Abdullah has asked a question: which are the growing industry in India for utilization of fish waste? So if you can say top 1 or 2.
Actually, there was as far as I know, MPEDA, Marine Products Export Development Authority. Under that, a few companies have been making chitin from the shell waste, and they make the chitin, and then portion of this converted to chitosan, and they export it. But a few years back, I had visited that company in Cochin. And recent information I am sure you will get from MPDA newsletter. Madam brought a Susport Development Authority, or I can collect and give to you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Any other last question? We're at 7:06, so, or you can always reach out to Dr. Venugopal on his email that has already been shared. So thank you, Dr. Venugopal ji. Diksha, you want to propose a vote of thanks?
Yes. Okay. I would like to propose a vote of thanks. Sincerely thank you to Dr. V. Venugopal for an enlightening session. And I would like to thank our support partners, AFST Mumbai, Chapter, Entra O2, and NetProgram. And thank you all the participants for attending today's webinar. I declare this session has ended. Thank you.
Thank you.